Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features the Uncanny X-Men number 157, cover dated May 1982. And this is a very eye-catching cover featuring apparently Dark Phoenix saying that surely you know that a Phoenix dies only to be reborn again. So could it be that Dark Phoenix is back? We have the Imperial Guard here in the background, Gladiator and Starbolt, and Admiral Samidar, who's been revealed to be a traitor to Lilandra in the previous issue. But what I really like on this cover is not just the eye-catching figure of Dark Phoenix in the foreground, but also the use of this color hold and the magenta and a little bit of screen tone as well there to give this kind of energy effect around her. So that's very interesting. But eagle-eyed readers and ones who've been paying close attention to the previous two issues might have some suspicions about who exactly this is. And if you pay close attention to the anatomy, in particular the upper body of this character, it might give you a little clue as to who this really is. So the artwork is by Dave Cockrum, inked by Bob Wiacek. Let's open this one up to the splash page. And the title of the story is Hide and Seek, and the creative team, Chris Claremont, writer, Dave Cockrum and Bob Wiacek, artist. So Cockrum providing the pencils, but the pencils finished in ink by Bob Wiacek, Janice Chang, letterer, and Don Warfield, colorist. So we still haven't got Tom Orzechowski and Glynis Oliver back on the team just at the moment. So this is a pretty cool splash page here. We've got Cyclops and Corsair, his father, in spacesuits, and there is the ongoing repairs of the Starjammer. And so we get a little catch up on what's been going on in the text boxes here, and also in the dialogue between Cyclops and Corsair. One of the things to note here, of course, is that this is a comic in the Jim Shooter era, where every comic Jim Shooter maintained could be a reader's first. So he demanded that a reader learn the names and code names and powers of all the characters in every single issue. So this is not true to life, that Cyclops here would be referring to his father by the code name Corsair, and that his father would be referring to his son by the code name Cyclops. But it's all part of the convention in order to convey that information to readers at the time. Something I want to note about Janice Chang's lettering here is that she has a slanted, like a forward slanted style for the narrative caption boxes, and a straight up style for thought balloons in this case, or speech bubbles in others. And it's not 100% consistent, so we can see here that she's got that forward slanted lettering for the dialogue between Colossus and Wolverine here, but here it goes, it's straight up, and in the rest of the issue it's straight up. So I wonder, was that something she was figuring out, or is a slanted lettering in some parts of the issue down to a speed consideration? But I like it on the pages where there is that distinction between the narrative captions in the slanted style of lettering and then the speech balloons in the straight up style of lettering. So there's a little bit of business going on here, a lot of explanation in the narrative captions for what the characters are doing. One little detail I like here is we've got Wolverine in a spacesuit, and there's an explanation of how he's able to use his adamantium claws, that they're popping out of special gaskets in his pressure suit. So I like that attention to detail that you get with Claremont's narrations, really thinking through how these things would actually work, in practice. So Colossus was badly injured a couple of issues ago, and he is still feeling the effects of that here in a spacesuit. And also what's happened here is there's an unexpected explosion. This is all down to the damage that was done to the ship, and Wolverine is knocked out into space, and he's lost control over the thrusters in his spacesuit. So Hepzibah comes after him, and he's a little bit chagrined about this because he thinks, why didn't you send a tug or a shuttle to pick me up? And she says, mechanisms needed elsewhere, easier, quicker, more certain to do job myself, also more fun. I like that, that's pure Claremont. So she throws Wolverine towards Raza to catch, and of course that's all very incongruous for Wolverine, such a a masculine macho man type to be rescued like a damsel there, caught by Raza. It's kind of funny stuff, the incongruity of it. And then we get Cyclops using his power with tight focus to knock Hepzibah, her suit, her spacesuit, very carefully, so that she is brought around and able to touch down on the hull of the Starjammer. But Colossus has passed out, and Ch'od calls the X-Men to take care and take account of their friend. So here we see inside that Colossus, from the explosion, he turned briefly into human form, and that chest wound he sustained a couple of issues ago has still not been completely healed. So Sikorsky is the artificial intelligence robot medical officer on the ship, and I like what Claremont does here in terms of developing a very particular syntax for Sikorsky. So he says here, warned he was, wounds critical, rest required, stubborn he is, like most humans, now price is paid. Bleeding internally, surgery required, most difficult will be. So that kind of backward syntax, a bit like Yoda in Star Wars, but I do like the thoughtfulness of Claremont developing these different speech patterns for these alien and strange robotic creatures that the X-Men have encountered now. And Wolverine here is unhappy about leaving Colossus just with Sikorsky and Storm attending the robot. But the robot here, and again, more comic, more kind of comedy at Wolverine's expense, where Sikorsky picks him up and throws him out of the operating room and tells him to scoot. So Wolverine not happy with that, pounding on the door and basically expressing like his frustration and impatience while waiting around for Colossus to have that surgery. And then there's a holographic display of Waldo. Now he's the ship's what would I say, like pilot and kind of living computer, and he says to them, your presence is required in the bridge. So up they go, and we get a little explanation of this bridge here. We can see Waldo in the center of operations there, and Magistrix Lilandra in the comm center of the bridge. And I'll read basically what happens here is that Lilandra explains that she's been using the Imperial comlink and her private code to reach Chancellor Araki. Once I assure him that I'm free and unharmed, he'll call off the punitive strike against Earth. So Earth has 24 hours to for Lilandra to be found. Now she's out here at the edge of the solar system on the Starjammer, but the Admiral Samidar, here he is here, is determined has betrayed Lilandra and is in league with her sister, her older sister Deathbird, and he is determined to destroy the Earth. So she explains here contact was established with the Chancellor, and he acknowledged my initial transmission, but now he won't answer. I've been calling for minutes without reply. I fear something may have happened. So the scene switches to the flagship of the Shi'ar task force, now orbiting the Earth, and here's the microphone, and Araki's been shot in the chest. And who clicks off the microphone except for Samidar? So double treachery. And he says here in classic villain style regarding his former friend, he says, I fear, Magistrix, that you have had your last conversation with your beloved Chancellor, as he switches off the comlink. A pity he did not listen to reason. We were friends, and slaying a friend is always distasteful. Command deck, he says. This is Admiral Lord Samidar. Summon the battle staff. As soon as the stated deadline has expired, we will execute Chancellor Araki's orders and obliterate the Earth. Okay, so those are the stakes. Then we're back with the Starjammer. It's out on the edge of the solar system, out near Pluto. And they're, as you can see there, they're trying to effect repairs. But Cyclops asks Professor X, can he not use his telepathic power to make contact with Kitty and Nightcrawler, who are aboard the flagship, in order to inform them that Lilandra is alive and well? And so he begins that process. Xavier has been called the strongest mutant mind on Earth, and today he proves that statement is no boast as he reaches across half a star system. And this is really interesting here, and we saw something comparable to this in the previous issue. The effort is considerable, requiring his total concentration. In the process, Xavier sees an anomaly within himself. And look at this little creature like wrapped around like a fetus there. And then this transformation of Professor X's astral face into a brood. So that is seeding something upcoming in subsequent issues. And we're told in the narration, we're told in the narration, something alien, unknown, and so profoundly disturbing that he interrupts the mind link to probe it. That proves to be a mistake. And so he's knocked unconscious. He's breathing, says Cyclops, but that's about it. Let's get him to sickbay fast. Looks like Sikorsky's got himself another patient. And then the scene switches to interstellar space, a clan ship of the Brood, badly wounded during Corsar's escape. Now that was in the previous issue. And we get in the narrative captions here interesting little detail regarding this living ship. Iridescent fluid, the great creature's blood, boils from a cruel gash in his flank, and he keens his pain softly, mindlessly to himself, and we can see that there. The injury will heal eventually, but the pain will never leave, for that is how the Brood controls their living starship. And as for the ship, he endures because he has no choice, no brain with which to even dream of freedom. The Brood destroyed that part of him ages ago when they captured him and made him their slave. So none of that narration is really required here. But Claremont just adds layers to what we're seeing in the visuals from Cockrum's pencils and Wiacek's inks. And it really gives a sense of depth and richness to this, alien race that we're learning more about, the Brood, and their ways, their kind of like parasitical ways, because they are parasites. And so here we see them. They're angry with Deathbird. They don't like losing, as their erstwhile ally Deathbird is discovering. By the same token, however, neither does she. So she's fighting and killing them here, these bugs, these alien bugs. And I really like the way that Cockrum draws them. And of course, Cockrum is their designer, so he should know how to draw them, but he makes them look really, really monstrous and alarming, for a Comics Code approved title. And I like this too, where Deathbird, where he's given her a very distinct nose here, kind of a beaky nose, which of course fits what she is in terms of what's being revealed, that she is a Shi'ar, a renegade Shi'ar, and Lilandra's older sister, and a matricide as well, that she killed their mother. That was all revealed in the previous issue. But here she's got a flaming sword. And so with all of this kind of avian imagery around her, she's like a fallen angel here with this flaming sword fighting these kind of demon creatures. It's an interesting kind of visual allegory that one could see in these panels. But these are great panels. Great page by Cockrum. So they come to an agreement to go back and ally again, that they're going to have a truce and they're going to work out a fresh deal here, where what it comes to is Deathbird reveals to the Brood that aboard the Starjammer are the X-Men, that they're mutants, and she provides the Brood with a scan of them and their powers. And so the Brood is impressed, very impressed, and says, "Spawn of the blood moon, never have I seen such readings. As breeders, they would serve the mother of us all herself." So in this dialogue, there's hints about how the Brood reproduce, but it's not made plain to us until subsequent issues. But I like the way that Claremont is hinting at it, not explaining everything, and keeping the reader there, the engaged reader, conjecturing about what all of this portends. So the Brood says, "We must have them, Deathbird, at any cost," and she says, "Leave that to me." And so now they have it fresh packed again, and Deathbird is plotting her revenge at the same time. She says to herself, "Either way, alien, you will slay me, or worse, I knew that from the moment we met, but I'm a survivor, Clan Master. Before I'm through, it is you who will beg me for mercy, a mercy that will be denied." And I really like this 3/4 profile on Deathbird here. And again, you can see that distinctive nose, that kind of beaky nose that Cockrum is drawing for her. I like that attention to detail in the art there. And then we're back aboard the Shi'ar flagship. We've got the various vessels of the task force there. They're in Earth orbit, but they're cloaked from detection on Earth. So the likes of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Fantastic Four have no idea that they're there. And then Kitty's been playing with this costume making machine in her room, and that's a big hint as regards what's the cover all about. In the dialogue here, they catch up in terms of like what they've been doing on the ship, how they have a plan to infiltrate the computer system, and Kitty here has another plan in terms of getting out of the room that they're locked into. So she uses the costume making machine to develop this skin suit, which is explained in her thoughts here. At least the skin suit will protect me from the temperature and radiation, and its grip soles will hold me to the hull. Too bad the costumer couldn't whip up any air tanks. I'm stuck with what's in my lungs, which means I can't goof off. So that's Claremont again, thinking in terms, procedural terms. What's going on here? How would this be possible? And I like the way that is kind of thought out and worked into her thought balloon. But this is the part of the page and this particular panel that I really like, and that is pure Claremont. This is not about just the progressing the narrative. This is a little moment for some wonder, and you get that with Claremont. You get it seeded throughout his run. And so Kitty here is in a position to think, the view, it's so beautiful. That's New Guinea, headhunters below, starships above. That's poetic. And she thinks to herself, how's that for an absolute contrast? And then she's back to the mission. So in she goes into this airlock just in time to catch a fresh breath, and just in time too to see outside the room that they're imprisoned in a trio of soldiers who are in their dialogue explaining that they've been ordered to kill the two X-Men. So this one says that when he opens the door, what they're to do is spray the compartment with blaster fire. Admiral Lord Samidar wants both of the barbarians eliminated. So Kitty's just made her trip in time to disrupt this, and as she phases through the Shi'ar, she disrupts the electrical systems of their battle suits and weapons, and also she's just in time to alert Nightcrawler to their arrival and intent. And so we get a really great panel here of Nightcrawler using his teleportation power to box out the trio and leave them unconscious on the ground. So, and I like this little piece of dialogue for him that Claremont puts into his mouth. Men of steel, jaws of glass, my kind of foe. That's great. I like that line. So he says here too, at least now we know the Admiral's intentions. So Kitty's okay. He says, we'll leave the rifles. They're too big and cumbersome. Here's a hand blaster and the mini version of the costumer I was building, programmed with the designs we agreed on. This is a crazy plan, Kurt, says Kitty. Do you think it'll work? We'll never know till we try. Let's find Iraqi and pray he believes us. So they've got a plan. It's some kind of ruse. They make their way into Iraqi's room, and they find that he's been shot in the chest, as we saw earlier. I like that particular angle, that angle from the ground. We're looking up at Nightcrawler and Kitty as they arrive. It's an interesting one from Cockrum. And then they're back to their plan regarding how they're going to deal with the Admiral. They don't like him. Of course, they never have. And Nightcrawler says the Imperial Guard, they're loyal to Lilandra, and convincing them should be simple. We'll just let their telepath oracle read Xavier's message in our minds. So Professor X got the message in from earlier before he went unconscious. And Kitty says, Kurt, how do we know they're loyal? In truth, Kitty, we don't, but we have no one else to turn to. Okay, so there's some tension here. There's some suspense building in terms of will the Imperial Guard believe Nightcrawler and Kitty or not? And then we're up on the bridge, and Samidar is ordering the attack on Earth. Target our missiles against the major population centers. he says. So the main batteries are locked on targets ready to fire. Here in the background, we've got the Imperial Guard, we've got Oracle, we've got Gladiator, we've got Starbolt. We get this guy's name a little later. These little weird aliens that Cockrum has drawn in as well. Very interesting. We'll also learn very shortly the captain's name, and it's a bit of an Easter egg as well. I'll point it out when we get to it. So, let's see what happens next. Well, Kitty and Nightcrawler put their plan into effect. Nightcrawler teleporting around the room, confusing everyone. And then a massive bamf and the arrival of Dark Phoenix. And she says, "You do well to call upon your gods, Lord Samidar, for only they can save you from my wrath." And so he's shocked, the evil one, but that's impossible. She's dead. And she says, and these are the lines from the cover, "Surely, Admiral, you know that a phoenix dies only to be reborn. Terra is my home, Shi'ar. You threaten it at your own peril. You shall not be warned again." And then another bamf from Nightcrawler, and she's phasing down through the decks below, giggling as she slips ghost-like through half a dozen decks. So it's Kitty Pryde. That was Kitty Pryde on the cover. And if you paid close attention, as I said, to the anatomy, in particular the upper part of the body, that becomes very clear compared to adult Dark Phoenix, yes? So here we continue. Gladiator here is, aghast at the prospect that they're up against Dark Phoenix. And he orders Oracle to mind scan the ship and space around us, whatever that entity was, find it. And she's really worried. If it was truly Phoenix, what will we do? What can we do? And he says, "I don't know. When last we fought, it took the entire Imperial Guard to bring her down. And even then, it was only because she allowed it." And that's X-Men 137. So, there's another teleportation of Nightcrawler, and he grabs Oracle. Because remember, the plan is to use Oracle to psi-scan them. But this is an interesting little detail. Claremont always working in limitations to characters' powers. And one of Nightcrawler's limitations is if he carries a passenger, it really takes a hell of a lot out of him, plus the passenger too. So she's completely discombobulated, and he's trying to get his head together, and he's telling her to not to be afraid. And then Kitty arrives still in Dark Phoenix costume, which frightens Oracle. She makes a run for it. Kitty grabs her, and she doesn't get very far, Oracle. So how are they going to convince her about their bona fides? Well, Oracle, by the way, I really like this particular panel here in this upshot of Oracle's face. Really nicely done. And also this kind of tilted side profile of Kitty here as Dark Phoenix. This is really well done by Cockrum. So Kitty tells her, "You're a telepath, read my thoughts. Probe as deep as you like, I've nothing to hide." So Oracle does so. And then I like this effect where she's psionically, telepathically communicating with Starbolt and Gladiator and tells them to join her at once. So they do. And there's a little bit of skepticism there. But Gladiator thinks this would explain the Admiral's recent unusual behavior. And Oracle says their story is easily confirmed. We simply postponed the bombardment of Earth long enough to establish contact with the Starjammer and the Magistrix. Whatever we decide, we'd best do it quickly. I'm scanning the command deck. They're preparing once more to attack. This is a funny little detail here in Cockrum's art where he's put Kitty into a Robin Hood costume. That's nice, a nice detail. So they're thinking here about what to do, and then Samidar, a hologram, appears, and he says, "I'm a careful man. That is how the ambitious survive. When you slipped away just now, I had a spy eye follow you." And I really like that from Claremont as well, like thinking out Samidar's character and how he would be careful like that. And I like the line as well, "I'm a careful man." I like that. It's thoughtful characterization. He's not just a kind of like a Silver Age type villain. He's clever. He's cerebral. So now the kind of reserve Imperial Guard arrive. They're loyal to the Admiral. They're comprised of a really diverse bunch of alien races. And at this point, we learn this big guy's name, who's part of Gladiator's cohort, Neril Iri. So that's his name. And he's kind of like half a tiger, half a fish. So he must be some kind of amphibian creature. Interesting. I don't remember seeing him subsequently. But in any case, now we're going to get a big fight. So indeed we do. Interesting, the layout on this page, just 3 long horizontal panels. We've got Gladiator punching out Warstar. We've got Nightcrawler and Kitty in action here. Nightcrawler telling Kitty, like, forget about the fight here. Get to the computers. They're the heart of any spacecraft. Without them, this ship and Samidar are helpless. Find the central core, Kitty. Put it out of action. Move. So that's something that Kitty's had to do before. Most recently in Uncanny X-Men 150, where she targeted Magneto's computer system, which sent him crazy, and he almost killed her, and that actually stayed his hand and led to a conversion of his character. So Kitty, always heading for the central computers, is turning into a little bit of a plot trope of Claremont. So here she goes, she's off. But I like this little bit here. This is kind of inventive and creative, where we see this strange like squid creature that grabs her, and I like the sound effect that Janice Chan comes up with, schlup. But Kitty phases out, and then it floops. This squid thing floops to the ground. That's a bit of fun. And also these alien letters that she's designed for this particular Imperial Guard member as well, whose name we don't learn. So Kitty's phasing through the decks again, racing towards the computer core, thinking to herself that she's got to succeed in order to save her mom and dad and everyone on Earth. So then we're back to the battle. That's a nice enough panel there. And here we go. So we're coming to the climax of the story. Everything's coming together. Samidar, now this is a bit Silver Agey, talking about the Imperial Guard, his cohort as incompetent. Must I do everything myself? Like, that's a line straight out of the Silver Age, as well as the likes of Scooby-Doo cartoons and what a villain might say in that. But in any case, here we go. What does he do? The combatants feel a moment of exquisite, undurable agony as the brood weapon, mated secretly to Beanie, the smaller part of the Warstar symbiote, detonates. That's all very interesting stuff. Then, of course, they feel nothing. We've got a color hold effect there. Kitty also gets targeted by a secret little gun there as well. And now Samidar's back to his original intention, which is to destroy the Earth. So he's captured Gladiator's cohort of the Imperial Guards, Nightcrawler and Kitty. He's also taken out the captain as well. And here it is that we learn the captain's name. The captain is Kirk, right? So there you go. There's the joke. Like, the way that the bridge of the flagship is organized, it's just like straight out of Star Trek. So to have the captain actually named Kirk, it really kind of points the joke. In any case, here he is, clenching his fist and demanding that the main batteries fire. It's targeted at San Francisco. The aim is to hit the San Andreas Fault and have the whole west coast of California drop into the Pacific. And I like the narration here. So it will strike with the force of a gigaton H-bomb, vaporizing everything within a 100-mile radius of ground zero and splitting the planetary crust along the major fault lines that rim the Pacific Ocean, but at far faster than the speed of light, skidding out of warp space at the last instant in an awesome display of engine power and astrogational skill. I like that neologism that Claremont has come up with. And then in parenthesis, the slightest error would have resulted in the destruction of both the ship and much of a terrestrial hemisphere, thereby doing Samidar's work for him. The Starjammer intercepts the beam. And that's a great little panel as well. But look at the storytelling here from Cockrum. The main batteries firing the plasma blast en route to Earth, but then just this arcing in flash that materializes as the Starjammer, when it comes out of warp drive, and intercepts that blast with its shields. Yeah, that's a cool little bit of storytelling there. And now we're on the last page. It all wraps up that quickly. So Lalandra hologram communicates with the crew on the flagship, tells them they're actually, this is broadcasting simultaneously to all the ships in the task force. And she says here, "Hear me, Shi'ar, I'm alive and well. No hostile action is to be taken against the Earth." Gladiator, "Why was this attack begun? Were you under restraint? Where's my Chancellor?" So he explains that he's dead. She mourns very briefly and then demands that Samidar be put under arrest. And there's quite a bit of detail here in the inking on these panels, especially here for these little lines, these frown lines on Lalandra's face. And it makes me wonder, is Wiacek using a tool other than the ink brush at this point for some of these fine details? I wonder, has he extended his toolkit to include a pen of some sort? So Lalandra here continues about beaming aboard directly to the flagship. There's a little bit of mourning there for Iraqi, her friend. She'll miss him. And what comes next is that there is some bad news. First of all, the good news at the end of the issue: Colossus is hale and hearty again. So the operation, the surgery to stop the internal bleeding and heal him, was a success. And Sikorsky says better he is, better he will get, assuming physician's orders he follows. But the problem is with Professor X. So he was knocked unconscious earlier in the issue, and he hasn't recovered. According to Sikorsky, Storm says quietly, while the professor's body is substantially unharmed, his brain may have been completely, irrevocably destroyed. He will not die, but he may well live out the rest of his days as a mindless vegetable. So that's a bit of a cliffhanger. And also, on top of that, just when the X-Men thought they had enough problems, enter the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. So, yeah, where are things going to go next? Are the X-Men going to go back to Earth? But what is the story with the Professor? It's all intriguing. We've got hanging plot threads. We've still got the mystery of the Brood. We've got Deathbird. She's still out there as well. So we really are in the middle of an ongoing storyline now. And that is different from how things were when Byrne left the ship. Well, not left the ship. Left the creative team. And now it seems like Claremont's back on track in the midst of an ongoing storyline, and it's absorbing and engaging. So the letters here, the letters are about issues 151 and 152, and also there's a little note here from Louise Jones, afterwards Simonson, regarding the title winning these great UK reader awards, the Eagle Awards. So Claremont, of course, born in England, and always was proud of the title winning those Eagle Awards, and there always would be little notices about the awards that they won. And with issue, I'm trying to remember, I think 275, there's also a little note on the cover as well about winning Eagle Awards. So he was always winning those awards and always wanted it known to readers in the US and the rest of the world about it. And there you go. I do hope that you enjoyed this review and commentary on Uncanny X-Men 157. Let me know what you think about the issue itself, the story itself, in the comments to this video. If you enjoyed my review, please like the video in YouTube. It really does help the channel. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.